Right lads, should we get going on it then? Because I'm all filming it and recording now. Let's get going. Can I use one of these?
Wow, where's it being recorded from?
It's got a camera in it. Can I use that as a reference? Is that yours?
Yeah.
Right, and I've made a little checklist here. So I've got my little headings that I'll rattle on about. Alright. It's good because you should be able to, in about 5-6 hours, you should be able to, you know, get the vast majority of all the theory that you need. So, let's get going. I don't know if you want to write notes. It sounds like a sort of a bit silly to be listening to it and to take notes and to have a video. Some people learn from writing, some people learn from reading, some people learn from watching, some from doing. So hopefully if you do a bit of it all, you know, it'll be good. Right, I'm going to start right from page 1, line 1, word 1, okay, in the book. Because when I did this last year, right, when I did it last year, you know, I know stuff in your head gets displaced, doesn't it, you know, with all the other subjects that you go. I know you've got another 10, 12 things crowding it out. So I'm sorry if I'm doing stuff that you've already known. If you do know it, don't be selective about it. In other words, don't sit there and think, oh, I know those two, I don't know that, I'll listen to that. Oh, I do know this bit, I don't know that. Try not to do that. Try to just keep moving with it. All right. You're going to need to understand, right, the difference between data, information and knowledge. Now, you've already been tested on this, so I'm hoping that at least half of you in the room would get it. But anybody in the room now, can you tell me what's the definition of data? Anyone? Data say again? Yeah, it's raw, unprocessed. So it's raw, unprocessed facts, yeah? So it's raw and unprocessed facts. The word process, what does the word process mean, anyone? If you say data. Yeah, no, to process something, it just means to manipulate it. Like, you know, processed food. I used to know a bloke years ago would never eat processed food. I mean, he was like, that real gym bunny, yeah? But he would never touch anything processed, nothing came out of a factory or a box. And so it's like processed cheese, isn't it? Those little slices don't come out of a cow looking like that. It means that you're manipulating it. You're taking it from one form and you're manipulating it into another, right? So, raw, unprocessed facts and figures, it has no meaning, so it doesn't mean anything to anyone. You need to always, like listen, you always need to support every definition you ever do with an example. That way you're covering your backside. If your definition's not that good, you can always say e.g. and if your definition's not that good, sometimes they'll give you the marking exams if you can prove that you know what you're on about. So what we'll do is we would just go e.g. I don't know, 4. 4 means nothing, yeah? Or let's even do it better than that, right? 2, 4, e.g. Let's go for another page. This is data, yeah? e.g. 2, 4, 0, 8, 8, 1, 24, so 24, 0, 88, 1. It doesn't mean anything. That could be height in millimeters, it could be populations, it could be money, it could be newtons, it could be anything, that, couldn't it? But then what we'll do is we're going to process that. So information is where what? Where you process data, put it into. Yeah. So the books will actually tell you that information is data plus meaning plus context. Right, data plus meaning plus context. And what they mean by that is now you've got 240881. If I went 240881, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give that a meaning. I'm not going to put it into context, I'll give it a meaning. So all I do is I just do that, yeah? Now, it's not guaranteed that it's a date, but it looks like a date. Done it 24th of August, 1981. So I've given it a meaning, but I haven't put it into context. If I said 240881 is a date of birth, I've given it a meaning, now I've put it into context. Okay, it's quite a subtle difference that. Yeah, go on, Jack.
Sure, can I get one out, right?
Yeah, I'll chuck it when I'm finished. Are we all good so far, yeah? So data plus mean is data meaning plus context. That gives you information, yeah? Yeah, man. Yeah, pass that over to Jack. Right, that brings you now to information, knowledge, yeah? So it brings you to knowledge. Knowledge is where you use information to support you in making, yeah. Don't say knowledge or computers make decisions. Always say it supports you. Okay? If you ever go on to do more advanced and learn about MISs and expert systems, you'll realise what a dangerous field it is to say computers should make decisions, you know, diagnosis. Right, come on, don't worry about the internet. Come on, kill the net. It's not, the I is information, not internet lessons. Right, so knowledge is where you use information to help you support you in the decision-making process. Okay? Are we all good with that? So we could turn around, somebody could phone and say, I want to go in your sixth form. And we say, what's your name, what's this, what's that? We start getting data and information off them. And then they turn around and they say, all right, born in 19, you're too old for it. We make a decision based upon it. Now you need to know as well the qualities of data. Qualities of data. For it to be of any use to you, data must be accurate, up-to-date, relevant, accurate, complete, yeah? So it's got to be accurate, up-to-date, relevant and complete. It's like a little mantra. Okay, data's got to be accurate, up-to-date, relevant and complete. What's information got to have as well? Information's got to be accurate, up-to-date, relevant and complete. And because it's going to be used in decision-making, it's got to be what presented in a useful format. You know, like charts, graphs. That's why you have reports on databases. It's got to be presented well, yeah? Are we all good with that? You've got to rattle that off. Accurate, up-to-date, relevant, complete. That's for data. For information, accurate, up-to-date, relevant, complete, and presented in a useful format. You're good to go with that? So data, information, knowledge, with examples, with definitions, and the qualities of data. These are all little sort of two markers. How they could do it is they could do it in a roundabout way, and they could sort of say things like, you know, which of the following are data? Just to see that you do understand, that you don't just remember, that you do understand. And they could do something like this. And they could say, you know, out of the following, what is data, what is information? And they could give you something like 040881. And there's no guarantee that it's a date, because that could be a batch number in a manufacturing plant, yeah? But they would do something like data or information. And they might ask you to tick things, you know, Steve, something like that. And then they might throw a false one, so you would say, oh right, that's information, it has a meaning, it's a date. Steve is a name, it has a meaning. If they give you something, then it's like 4832x1, doesn't mean anything, it's data. Be careful that you don't rush into that. If they give you some weird date that doesn't exist, don't think, oh, it's a date, you know, because you're in exam stress mode. Take a breath and have a little look at it. If it has a meaning, right, it's informative, it's informing you something. If it doesn't, it's data. All right? You all good with that? Moving on. I told you I'd, how could this board be any further out? I told you I'd be flying. Right. You need to know your V's as well, right? GIGO stands for garbage in, garbage out. It's just another way of saying human error in it. You put rubbish in, you get rubbish out of it. Now what you've got to do is you've got to try and filter that out at the input stage. Ideally filter as much of the error out at the input stage as you can. Can anybody remember the two most common forms of errors? Any show-offs in here? Clever lad, go on, good boy. Go, go, go. Good, wow. It's not, normally year 11s don't remember this. Transposition and
Scription.
What, who?
Scription.
Yeah, well done. Did you just read that on there?
No, I did not.
Well done. They're the two most common forms of input errors on computers. Transposition and transcription. Transposition is when you transpose something, when...
Have you got any...
Hurry up, I'm filming the lesson. Just barge in. I'll do this on the joint production. Well, can I eat a kebab? Is it alright, everyone? What? Up there. Have a look, the cream stuff is carved.
Are you filming like now?
I was. You know, you must tell me the day you get married, I'll bring some of the boys round. Trent will sit at the back. Transposition is when you transpose something, yeah? So when you transpose something, transcription is it's just a basic input error. You know, when you just a spelling mistake is traditional transcription. If you look at the word there, script is to write, isn't it? And I don't know, pose doesn't mean anything, does it? I always think like, you know, to transpose something is to switch it around. See, transcript is a basic write there. That's sort of a little bit A-level-y. But don't worry about it. It's nice if you get an essay question. If I was marking someone's GCSE and I saw them mention on if they had anything on validation, verifications, GIGOs, errors, if I saw them writing about transposition and transcription, the warning lights would go off for me that I'd maybe dealing with somebody that's do. You get hobbyists, people that do GCSE for hobbies. You know, you get these people that've got like 38 of them. It would set me thinking, who am I marking here, the same as typical year 11, because it's a little bit advanced, but it's quite an easy thing to remember. Yeah. So how you would filter those out is by doing validations and verifications. Validation and verification. What you've got to make sure here, guys, is that you don't assume that validation and verification get rid of all your errors. That's a classic schooling mistake. They'll say, oh, can you guarantee that you'll reduce errors by putting validation and verification on things? You can't guarantee it, but it goes away towards reducing errors. Okay? So let's just go through a few of these. Can anybody think of a definition now of validation? If it says to you in the paper, what is validation, I would hope you would say it's a way of reducing errors by ensuring that data is within good, yeah. So validation is a means of trying to reduce errors at the input stage of, or a lot of stages on a computer system, by checking the data is valid, that it's sensible, and that it's within predetermined boundaries. If you just turn around and say that data is sensible, that's a sort of a CD grader. If you turn around and say, then you want to show that your grammar school and that your A star, B stuff, you know, I would hope to see, and that it's within predetermined boundaries. Because you validate things in your head all your time. You know, when somebody says something, you'll go, that can't be right, that can't be valid, because you're pre-programmed, don't you? You're conditioned to have these parameters within your head. That if they give you dates, if I said, you know, my date of birth is the 33rd of the 11th, you go, it's invalid. I'm going outside your preconditioned parameters, yeah? So validation is checking that data is sensible and within predetermined borders, parameters, anything that suggests that there's a limit, top and bottom limit, yeah? Verification is checking that data is what? Yeah, you're getting this stuff, aren't you? You're rattling it off. Verification is checking that data is true and correct. That's sort of B grade-y. Anybody want to hit me with the A grade stuff? Leather jockey boy, yeah, target matches, yeah, well done, target and source match. So verification is checking, what's it also, give me another name for it then, go on, while you're on a roll, while you're cooking. Double, yeah. Okay, verification is checking that data is true, because it sounds like vrai, doesn't it? Vrai, true in French, yeah. So verification is checking that data is true, that it's correct. It's also referred to as double entry, and it's checking the target matches source data. Okay, well done. That's another. These are real classic one-line, bang, have a mark, bang, bang. You know the stuff, bread and butter stuff. What you call bibs and braces. When you're older, if anybody ever says bib and braces stuff, it means it's just, you know, it's your foundation stuff that you just rattle off, you know. So all this will appear all throughout it's quite a new paper, but I'd be really surprised if you don't open it. Really surprised, and it hasn't got all bread and butter stuff like this, like 1 markers, 2 markers, 2 markers. The stuff that's going to fill up your pot before you have to start thinking, all right. So are we good with that? I'll go through some examples of these now. So is everybody good if you get a definition? Verification, check is true, correct. Target matches source data, also referred to as double entry. Validation, checking that data is sensible within predetermined boundaries. Okay? Hi. How annoying are they? Right, let's do some validation. Validation examples. On the syllabus printout that I gave you, it's actually really specific. And it mentions the following. There's lots of them. I could do 7, 8, 9, 10 of them. But it's ironic that they actually identify 3 really specific ones on it. So you've got a format check. Right, a format check would try and find transposition errors on something like a date. So you'd use a format for a transposition error on a date. And that's why you have BD, MM, YY, you know, on fields that you fill in on a spreadsheet, on a form. Is to make sure that you don't get those the wrong way around, that you don't transpose days and months. Because we do tend to think of ourselves as me, myself, we only live on planet me, let's fill this in. Whereas you've got like 6% of the population living like on the other side of the Atlantic, that would be foreign to them, and also other countries as well. Silly little things, you know, I think it's the Beagle or whatever it is, you know, this is the arrogance of systems and the trouble with having different methodologies of working across the planet. And you'll study this when you're a bit older and the problems with it. You know, they use the word protocols all the time. Protocols just mean like sets of rules. You all follow protocols, sets of rules. Yesterday I had what's called a Moodle meet to show how I'm building the new VLE. And the reason that I'm doing that is I get a few guys in here, teachers in here, and I'll say, look, I'm building the new VLE. I think we should observe certain protocols, follow sets of rules, so it doesn't become all messy and ad hoc and look like a right old throw together thing. Because if you need to start off as you mean to go on, okay, you need to start off as you mean to go on. And a perfect example would be, you know, when they sent the probe to Mars, you know, the Beagle little thing that drove around the surface of the moon and they controlled it from Earth, you know, like so many millions of miles away. Apparently, the first one that they sent, and they lost billions on it. I mean, it was billions and billions of dollars. The British guys were responsible for programming it, and they sent it like, and you saw this thing go, and it went off in the distance. I never saw it again. And there was like a big investigation, and Jesus Christ, you know, the whole purpose of sending this probe to Mars was to drop that thing on it, so we could drive it around, get some scalp samples, and do some remote testing, and see if there's any bacteria on the surface or anything like that. This thing, it's probably still going somewhere now. And apparently, the reason that it did that was that we work in metric. They still work in imperial in the States. They still use gallons, inches, feet, and yards. You know, we're on meters and centimeters and millimeters. And nobody, you know, with all the geniuses and all the high-tech tens and tens of billions of dollars of investment, not one of them realised there was a breach in protocol there. That they were using one measurement and we were using another. We programmed it for one, and they were in charge of the development of it, and we were in charge of the software development. They didn't get together. Okay? So protocols and styles and formats are critical. If you did A-level, you learn about, you know, syntax and semantics and syntax of data. Right, which is the structure of data, and semantics is how you interpret data. You know, so if anybody ever says, "Oh, you're being semantic," it means that you're interpreting things to suit yourself. You know what I mean? So you can understand that validation. That's important that you know what a format check is. Okay, format check. That's a common validation. Another one would be a presence check, and it says what it does on the tin. You know, is it there? Has somebody filled it in? You're used to seeing a field like name. And against the name, you'd have a red asterisk. Right, that's a compulsory field. You can guarantee you can get to the bottom of the table. Try and do that. Bonk. Oh, it drives you potty. Absolutely. I hate these. Absolutely hate them because it's a bit controlling. And you can guarantee, can't you, get to the bottom. You just know when you click submit. And then you've got to go back and find it, haven't you? We all do it. How many in here have ever done? You can guarantee everyone on the planet that's filled something in has gone, oh, for God's sakes. And then you have to look all down and try and find, you know, where it is. All they've done is they've done a presence check. But these aren't mutually exclusive, which means that you don't just have a format check, and you don't just have a presence check, and you don't just have this sort of check. You can have them all. You could have enter your date of birth in there, and it could be a presence check, and it could have a format check on it. You could have all sorts of things. You could have a field length check on it, checking the length, the size of, you know, the data, the length of the data that you're putting in there. So I would expect, so if that had name on it, I'd have a format check on that. I'd also have a presence check on it, make sure it's there, and I'd also put a field length check on it as well, just make sure that they haven't just put one letter of the alphabet in, because it's impractical, isn't it? Yeah? Or improbable. Right, the next thing that was on their list is a check digit. Can you remember that? If they say to you, what's a check digit, how many people in here would blag? Or how many people in here would actually go, yeah, oh, easy mark here. I hope anybody I teach when they're asking things like this would go, back of the net, every question. And it just become a walk in the park. Check digit.
The digit at the end of the barcode.
To ensure that what?
No.
That's not a definition, that's what one is. You've got to be careful, lads, that you don't get mixed up between what something is and what a definition is. If they say to you what is a check digit, that's implying that they want you to explain what it is, yeah? So if you've got a check digit, you've got your barcode, haven't you? Bum, 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 bum. Each one of the thicknesses of those has a corresponding number. So each one of those has a corresponding number. Right, the check digit is the final number on a barcode that ensures that the integrity of the preceding numbers are there. It tests the integrity of the preceding numbers. So the check digit is a means of validating the contents of a barcode. So all it is the final number. Let's be honest, guys. Some of you you're 16 going on 17. Some of you could be getting ready for work. You know, if we're having a meeting now at Tesco's and you've gone in as an apprentice on Tesco's systems, you know, and you're sitting there going, check digit, right? They're going to go, what? Biggest retailer on the planet? You don't know what a bloody check digit is? You know, you've got to get your act together. Don't learn this stuff just because you might have a test on it. You know, so a check digit is just a number on the back. It's the final number on a barcode. And any of you that go into retail, I know you've all got dreams of building bridges in Venezuela and going to the moon and all that, but the truth be known is you might end up in an office somewhere, hopefully, as a middle manager for a major retailer. 20, 30, 40 people work for you. And you need to know basic techniques, you know, and what goes on in the marketplace. So if you look at, you know, a check digit there, so it's the final number, right, it's the last number on a barcode to ensure that the integrity of the numbers that precede it are there. To make sure that nobody's messed around with that there, which would change that to an A. All it is, and then that would change that number at the end. All it means is that these numbers here you apply a really simple mathematical formula, like you add them all up, divide them by 4 and add 1. I don't know what it is, but it's really quite simple. And if these change, then that has to change accordingly. If that changes, the thickness of that line has to change there as well. Can you see? It's a really simple but clever way of stopping people with interfering, because 80% of all theft is done at a till, by people on the till. Okay, everybody thinks that most shoplifting is done by people stuffing stuff in their pockets. It's not. 80% of all theft, I think it's billions, 2.something billion a year. And it puts, I think, isn't it responsible for 10% of all the price of goods in Britain? The 4th largest economy on the planet is by underringing and interference with stuff at the tills. Okay, so that's quite, well, it's not quite, it's very, very important. So if any of you go out where they've got what's called an EPOS system, which is an electronic point of sale system, you will have to know that. If you don't know the inside out, then you're a monkey out there. Because you've got to try and filter out, to earn your money, you've got to try and filter that sort of thing out, yeah? Are we all good with validations then? Yeah? I'd like to do a lot more, but when I'm reading from this here, I don't want to fill your head with stuff that you ain't going to need.
So does the print needs more paper or something? It's not printing stuff.
Alright, can you hold on a bit, mate, until I've just finished this. Right, moving on, let's carry on. So that's data, information and knowledge, validation, verification, examples of validation. Let's do verification now. Also referred to as double entry. Don't for God's sakes forget that, because pretty much guarantee if you've got anything about verification, definitions and things like that, that'll be on the mark scheme. Right, it's just baby, isn't it? I'd hate you to come out of the room and I'll say, did you write double entry? You go, oh my God, are you kidding? How many times have I said double entry to you whenever I say verification? So it's just checking one against the other. So it's asking you to verify, yeah? You associate it with password entries, okay? So you associate it with passwords. If you get anything, this is where the difference between, I know I'll bleat on about it, but the difference between A and A starers and set 3 down the road and you lot is, I would hope, that not only would you say verification means that data is target matches source data, and it's also referred to as double entry, and you associate it with passwords. I would also then, this is where grammar school kick in, this is why hopefully you'll be the gaffers, you'll turn around and say that it can only be done by computers. It can only be done by humans, sorry. Humans can verify, computers can't. If a computer makes a mistake and you ask it to verify, it will just repeat the mistake. Okay, so it's sort of creeping into the realms of A level, but I mean, some of you are probably, I don't know, 1 week younger than the youngest in year 12, so you can handle concepts like that, right? So it's just checking, so it's double entry, it's checking that target matches source. It's also referred to as double entry. You associate it with password entry. And as a footnote, as a little back of the net, really bang it home, you turn around and say that only computers can only people can verify, computers can't verify. Are you all good with that? Alright. So that's your, I've done that. Gigo, you're right that. So I'm going to do a little bit on data logging and then I'll sack it and I'll leave you to show you where you should be with your controls, etc. Right, data logging. I'm guilty of having put a couple of questions on that test and you not actually doing much on it. I think you got some little printout somewhere. And I hate death by worksheet. It's cop out, isn't it? Just print something off and learn that. It's an easy way of teaching it. And the reason I'm doing this is that, you know, with the year 11 girls, on the test they said, we haven't done data logging. But then they checked and they'd all got a printout of it. So clearly, it doesn't work, does it? By just telling everyone to print stuff out. Right, data logging. I would expect, right, I didn't used to bother with data logging because I checked with the physics department and they said, oh, we do data logging in year 9, and so I stopped teaching it. And then I found out about, well, no, 6 months ago, I was having a brew with one of them in physics, and I said, oh, we don't do that anymore. And, gee, I wish you told me because it's on the syllabus, so I brought it back in. But you'll only ever get on data logging a couple of marks. Even at A level, they only ever ask you things, if you get it in there, it's only ever 2-3 marks. It's just because it's like, it's where, you know, where industries sort of cross over, systems, IT, computing, and then you've got your sciences over here. It's this little murky, digi area in the middle, you know, where it actually applies to science and where they're using it out in the field. And so nobody knows who to teach it best half the time, I think, so they both make a bit of an attempt. So what we'll do is, I'll just do a little bit of an overview here. Right, the key with data logging, right, it's all about automatic data capture. It's all about the automatic capture of data. And like I say, it's only 2 markers. I've only ever, any paper, any board, any level, higher, found out any of it, you only ever see 2 or 3. But to be quite honest, you don't want to be dropping 2 or 3 marks on silly definitions. You know, drop them on what you have to understand, not what you have to remember. All right. So automatic data capture. Because nowadays it's all about time and money and effort. Everybody wants it fast, fast, fast. Things done fast, right? It's not only about capturing data automatically, but you associate it with what are called sensors. So it's the automatic capture of data using various sensors. And these are used widely, I mean seriously widely. Any of you that are going to go and do sciences and you're thinking of going out in the field doing things, data capture with sensors are massive, absolutely massive. I mean, the other day in the paper it turned around and it said, oh, it's the it's the warmest winter for 350 years. You're not telling me that some meteorologist somewhere has turned around and just thought, hey, it's quite warm, isn't it? Put a press release out, warmest for 350 years. They've not made that up. What they've done is they're going to look at historical data. They're looking at the data they're capturing now, and they're looking at it day by day, and they're coming up with a conclusion, and then they're making informed decisions about it. So you need to know the various types of measurement that you would take. Obviously one is temperature. You can get temperature sensors, which are, they got these really crazy names, call them thermistors. Right, a thermistor sounds, do you have thermistors in physics? Do you?
Yeah.
Ain't it a stupid word? I hate that word. I think, do you not think, did nobody, when they said a thermistor, you know, thermistor, it just sounds stupid, doesn't it? It's like typical science made up word. So you have your thermistors for temperature, and then obviously you have light sensitive devices, don't you, as well? You know, light sensitive diodes and stuff like that. Do you do this in physics then?
Yeah.
So they haven't stopped doing data logging. If I say to you, if I said to you then, what do you call the period between one data capture and another? You would call that a data. They don't teach you that good then. Data interval. Yeah. So data. So you need. I'll give you a couple of little definitions, but it cheers me up a little bit that you're aware of data logging. Yeah. So you need to understand that you can do temp, light. You can even do sound. But predominantly it's sort of temperature, light, and movement and things like that. You know. Now you need to know why you data log. You need to know the advantages. So let's do some advantages, yeah? So the advantages of anything that's automated, you can do it, it's sort of quick, you can do it quick. You know, you're trying to reduce human error and human input, but so it can be quite speedy. You know, if you want to capture the data of, if you're working in a ballistics environment, you know, for the Department of Defence, and you're measuring impact of shells on 4-inch armoured plate or something like that, what are you going to do? Go, yeah, mate, you go down the end of the firing range, and you know, we'll tell you when. Take the bit. Oh, you missed it. You know, you're down there with a camera. Take a bit. Oh, 2,000 shots later, you're still trying to catch it on your Kodak. Okay. So what you would do is you maybe put some sort of laser beam break where it could see, and then the high-speed camera would kick in. So that would be data logging, wouldn't it? Your data intervals at that would be phenomenally small, a millionth of a second. Data interval. So a data interval is the time between the capture of one data and the next capture. So data interval is the time frame between capturing one set of data and capturing the next. Okay. They might turn around and say, "What's a data interval?" Just say that it's the time frame between the capture of one data and the next one. The worst thing that you can do is try to think, well, these are words that I use on a day-to-day basis. I can blank my way through them. You won't. I could have given you all a piece of paper there and said, you've all heard the word data a million times. You've heard the word interval a million times. What's data interval? Not one of you in here would have written down a good definition. Not enough. So data interval is just a time frame between the capture of data and the next capture. So if you're doing 10,000 captures a second, you know, in some high-speed ballistics test, you're doing 10,000 data intervals a second, yeah? So, or FPS, frames per second. If you were doing, let's just say that, you know, everyone's obsessed about global warming and the way that it's going warmer and warmer and warmer. Well, and it is, to be honest with you. Don't doubt for a minute that the world is at a normal place at the minute. When I was your age, we'd have been under a foot of snow. Freezing cold winters, red hot summers. Now there is no season, and that's just one long, mild season. So the world is clearly changing. And they're turning around saying that if it keeps going the way that it is in 20, 30 years, you know, when you're 50, you're my age, Norfolk won't exist. Half of Amsterdam won't exist. Low-lying areas, you know, the Fenlands won't exist. The whole map, they're even looking at trying to predict what the map of Britain will look like in 20, 30 years. And, you know, do you really want to, should you really be buying property in Fenland because it's like 8 inches above sea level. When the sea level goes up 2-3 foot, there's only so many walls you can build to keep it out. So what they're doing all the time is they're constantly taking temperature, and the reason that data logging is so important is that you can do it in like a high risk environment as well, or where, so it's very good for high risk environment. You imagine if any of you guys went and you went, I don't know, and you're testing tectonic plate movement down the west coast of America, and yeah, we've got this great big borehole down there, 600 foot down. Then you're going to say, oh, get the new kid, he's only on £6 now. We'll lower him down on a rope, and he can go down there and take some measurements for us. Put me down, right? What you do is lower a sensor down there, wouldn't you? And then you take some readings some more time. So it's good in a high risk environment. It's also good. So it's good where there's where it's got to be done over a long period of time, and human error might be a problem. Imagine if I sent one of you up to the Antarctic and I turned around and I said, can you take a measurement? Your data period. So the data period. This is another definition. The data period is the point at when you start taking data and you finish taking data. Okay. So the data period is the point. Is the complete. Is that annoying you? That's all. I got it. Yes, no, yeah, nearly that. Right, the data period is the period of time between when you start taking data, capturing data, and when you finish it, okay? So if I said we're going to send you up there for a, I don't know, 12-month data period, and I want, I've got daily data, I've got daily intervals, I want data intervals of 24 hours, that means I'm sending you up there for a year and I expect 365 data captures of changes in the Antarctic temperature there with the misters, yeah? Imagine, I don't know, you sleep in one day and you miss one. That slight blip, we've lost one variation, that could skew what's going to, because remember your data's got to be accurate, up to date, relevant, complete. It ain't accurate. So when you start introducing humans into capturing data, it's a lot more accurate to let computers do it, okay? The whole, so the advantage is it's quite speedy, it's more reliant, isn't it? So it's more reliant. And it's good in a high-risk environment as well. It's good in a high-risk environment, like down volcanoes. You want to know if they're all worried about the super volcano in Yellowstone Park, aren't they? They're upset, and the world is like twitching over that. I mean, I think the last time that went, it killed all life on the planet within about a month, because it blotted everything out for about 2 years, didn't it? And so that's bubbling and coughing all the time. And I think they've got so much data logging in Yellowstone Park in America. This like 6,000 acre volcano just under the surface. They've got thousands and thousands of sensors and readings from all around the world, and they're testing within a micron. Quite what they're going to do, they're going to say, hey, you're all dead in a month. But they just need to know, and they're obsessed over it. So it's good in a high risk environment, yeah? Right, there are the advantages. Disadvantages. Right, is when you're taking, you can become reliant on things, and you can become inflexible. When you start looking at all of the readings that you get off computers, you can start becoming very, very reliant on it. And in fact, at A level, you learn about expert systems. And one of the disadvantages of an expert system is you rely on what they say. Have any of you ever gone on one of those online diagnosis things? Have you got a cough? Have you got a this? Do you feel a bit tired on a Friday? You get to the end, and everyone's got cancer. It doesn't matter what you put in it, you're dead. And it's really depressing. And that's the definition of an expert system. And you get like 3 free shots, don't you? If you go on some of them online diagnosing, very often they give you 3 shots. Don't matter what you got, you're dead. You think, oh my God. And so some people sort of do that, and I'll say it's inflexible. So you lose a certain amount of flexibility, whereas humans can respond to things, They could say, oh, I've taken a reading there, but I took that reading when that crow flew over, and it threw a shadow on it, and it like dimmed it a bit and blah blah. So they can factor in variables. Humans can factor in variables. Computers, they can factor in variables, but they're not as good at it as we are. Computers are what you call rule-based systems. 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 2 is 4, and they're not that flexible. We use what's called heuristic logic, fuzzy logic. I don't want to get A-level again, but we use fuzzy logic. And fuzzy logic, we use probabilities. If I get a coin out now and I flip it, and I go head, 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 I do 20 heads on the trot. We're blokes, we gamble. If I turn around and said, anybody, I'd say, stick me down for a 5 on that, I'll have a 5 on a tail next time. Most of you probably do it. You'd probably go, yeah, put me down for a 5 spot on that as well. Why? The computer would just say, why? It's still 2 to 1. But we look at the probabilities. We think, it can't happen again. So we built, that's called heuristic logic. That's the first stage towards artificial intelligence. That's what they're trying to achieve all the time. That we can look in a lot of variables. We can take in billions of variables very, very quickly and work on probabilities and likelihoods. Computers can't. It would just say, well, 2 to 1 again. Why would you put any money on that? See where I'm coming from? So when you're capturing data with automatic data capture devices, ADCs, automatic data capture. ADC is short for automatic data capture, yeah? You remember me doing OMR, MIC, ROCR and all that? Do you remember that? Optical mark reader, optical character reading. Not remember that? I will do that again. So disadvantage, they can be a little bit inflexible. Can be a little bit inflexible. And we can become a bit reliant on them. And when you become reliant on something, you stop using human judgment. Oh, well, read the printout. Read the printout. It could be wrong. And so we're all getting a very narrow, very streamlined opinion of what the world should be about. Now I'll stop on the next point, which is why do we do it? Where does this go? This tends to feed into models. It has a habit of feeding. Automatic data capture has a habit of feeding into models. Right, you might feed that in. All a model is a simulation. You use them a lot in a simulation. If I went 2, 4, 6, you go 8. All modelling is looking at old data and predicting it, pushing it forward. Spreadsheets are very good for doing it. An elementary modelling system is like a spreadsheet. So you imagine you captured a load of data and you saw this. Well, you know this in maths now. You know what am I going to put in the middle of that?
A line.
Yeah, I'm going to stick a trend line in there, aren't I? Try and find a trend line, with the medians and all the maths of it. And what you can do then is you can project that forward. So modelling is looking at historical data and projecting it forward. This is why they're turning around saying, Norfolk is going to be under 16 inches of water in 35 years. Or the Antarctic is losing so much land mass. What is it? And they're looking at projections on the rainforest. And all they do is they just push it forward, because the beauty of models is you can speed it up or you can slow it down. So high impact stuff you can slow down, or you can speed it right up. And in fact, the day after tomorrow, you've seen the day after tomorrow, there's one point where he's walking down through the White House and he's going, oh, that can't, and they give him a sheet, and it's where, the supercells hitting Scotland. You see the flag go, and then you realise they're dead in that little hut. As it's coming down absolute zero, it's moving over them, and you know that they're going to be like dead within 20 seconds, even with the fire on. And he turns around and this supercell's moving over Scotland, and he looks and he says, that can't be right, my model said it wouldn't happen that quick. And so, once again, it's inflexibility. It shows that he had a reliance on something. The trouble is you have a lot of variables putting in on that, and the computer hasn't made allowance for it, not the way that we would do. Okay? We would question things. But I'll do modelling a little bit more in depth later on. But automatic data capture and data logging has a habit of feeding in, because all I'm doing there is I'm presenting information there, and in a way that you can make a decision. If that's global warming, it doesn't take a bleeding genius to look at it and go, 20 years from now we've got a problem. You've made a decision based upon maybe bazillions of bits of data just shown in a straight line. Okay, so it's all about trends and patterns and things. So you've done data, information, knowledge, validation, verification. Examples of validation, you know what GIGO is, and you've got some good definitions of verification and validation. You know what data logging is, a definition of it. You know what a data period is, a data interval is. You know where you use it, and you should know a couple of advantages and disadvantages of each, yeah? If you came out of that room and you said, oh, I didn't get 10 to 15 marks on that, I'd be, what? Anyone in the country that taught you would go, you are having a laugh. That's a side of your paper covered. This is how easy this is, alright? So that will cover that one, and we'll do another one next lesson, alright?
So please, you pass me the stuff off.
Yeah, so let me do that.